What is going on, ladies and gents? Michael or Legacy Kill HD back today with another Elder Scrolls 6 video for you. Today we're going to be discussing the Aldmeri Dominion or the Thalmor and how they could be the biggest players in the Elder Scrolls 6, playing as a pivotal role as maybe the antagonist of the next game. We're also going to be going over some of the information, some of the lore that they've left behind and how they could be starting a Great War 2 with the Empire. Now, before we begin going through what they could be playing as in the Elder Scrolls 6, we're going to start off with some basic information, some basic lore that you should know about the Third Aldmeri Dominion or the Thalmor. But to start, they are a group of nationalist and radicalist Aldmer which believe the Mer are better than men. They formed in the 4th era of the year 29. But the real start was when the Empire fell apart after the Oblivion Crisis. With no Septim successor, the ruler was Potentate Okado, who is said to be a very weak leader, leading to his assassination by Thalmor agents in the 4th era of the year 10. Later on in the 4th era, year 22, the Thalmor capitalized on their successes during the Oblivion Crisis, claiming to have single-handedly ended the crisis, when in reality, they held off the attacks of the Daedra that invaded the Somerset Isles and closed some of the Oblivion Gates. But the champion of Cyrodiil and Martin Septim ended the crisis, defeating Mehrunes Dagon at the Battle of the Imperial City. They ultimately overthrew the Imperial administration of the Somerset Isles while the Empire was still reeling from its own losses during the crisis, an act effectively establishing the independent nation of Alinor, the nucleus for the Third Aldmeri Dominion or the Thalmor. They would purge the rest of the Somerset Isles and killing any non-Mer descent. In the 4th era, the year 29, sympathizers of Thalmor in Valenwood, the homeland of the Bosmer, overthrew the imperial administration of Valenwood and joined Valenwood with the Somerset Isles to form the Third Aldmeri Dominion. However, the Empire and its allies in Valenwood would not bow down easily. The Imperial Legion, aided by the Empire's Bosmer allies, fought back against the coup by the Thalmor sympathizers. It was at this moment that the Empire first tasted the true might of the Third Aldmeri Dominion. The Aldmer armies invaded Valenwood, driving out the Imperial Legion and its Bosmer allies, and securing Valenwood for the Dominion. After these events, the Thalmor would continue on taking parts of Tamriel. They moved elsewhere, where the Elsewhere people joined the Aldmeri Dominion after they stopped an event known as the Void Nights, an event which the two moons of Nirn disappeared for 2 years. When the moons reappeared, the Thalmor took credit, in which the Khajiit saw them as saviors, as the moons are very important to their religion, causing a massive decline in imperial influence in the region. Okup then overthrew the Elsewhere Confederacy, creating the two kingdoms of Anaquina and Palatine, which the Aldmeri Dominion accepted as client states. Ironically enough, during this period of time, the main or spiritual leader was supposedly assassinated by Thalmor agents. Then, following this, after years of the Thalmor taking Tamriel land from the Imperials, the Great War begins. But right before this war begins, a Dominion ambassador would go to the Imperial City and he demanded that Emperor Titus Me II pay immense tributes to the Dominion, disband the Blades, outlaw the warship of Talos, and cede large portions of Hammerfell, the homeland of the Redguards, to the Dominion. The Emperor rejected the ultimatum, and the ambassador presented the Dominion's gift: hundreds of heads that had came from executed Blades that had been spying for the Empire. Thus, the Great War ensues, and after many battles and victories for each side, the war would end with the White Gold Concordat in the 4th era, year 175. The Concordat is actually a peace treaty between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion. The terms of the treaty gave the Thalmor free rein to stamp out the warship of Talos throughout the Empire and ceded a large section of southern Hammerfell. But unfortunately, Titus II renounced Hammerfell as a province of the Empire to preserve the treaty after the Redguards opposed ceding their lands. The Redguards see this as a betrayal, and a lasting bitterness between Hammerfell and the Empire is sown to the delight of the Thalmor. Hammerfell continues to war with the Aldmeri Dominion for the next 5 years until the Aldmeri Dominion withdraw after the war comes to a standstill. And this is when the Cold War begins. Thalmor correspondences found in Skyrim have revealed a different name to describe the Great War, the First War with the Empire. This suggests that not only do the Thalmor intend a second Great War, but they have already began to plan its execution. Conversely, it is heavily implied, most notably in the remarks made by various members of the Legion, that the Empire is taking measures of its own. As pretty much you guys can tell, there's a lot of heat between both sides in Skyrim, pretty much hinting to the Great War 2 will happen soon, which could possibly be our first hint at the Elder Scrolls 6 main plot. But we'll get to that in just a moment. But the last very interesting thing that came out of Skyrim was Maelborn, Delphine's Bosmer contact, notes that the Thalmor wiped out his whole family back in Valenwood during one of their purges, so that shows that maybe and elsewhere they also are having purges, pretty much stating that each of their own lands, they are taking out any opposition that faces them. Now to how this could possibly affect the Elder Scrolls 6. I personally see this as being the major plotline of the next game. A lot of people may disagree with this, but I feel like it has to be introduced in some way or some sort, as it feels like the Thalmor are teasing us that they are going to start a war with the Empire once again, and possibly their next game could be taking place in Valenwood and elsewhere, or maybe you could even throw in Hammerfell, maybe one of the locations. I've discussed this in the past. I personally feel like Valenwood and elsewhere makes the most sense, but some people have also said maybe they take on the Red Guards once again in Hammerfell. Both of those ideas are pretty plausible, and if they do go down this road with an Aldmeri Dominion versus the Empire, there doesn't necessarily have to be those two sides only. You could even bring back the Morag Tang, or you could bring in some of the other factions, and maybe they play some type of pivotal role into this. I've already discussed in the past how I said maybe the Dwemer return and they are the main protagonist or antagonist of the next Elder Scrolls 6 game. But it definitely sounds like the Great War II is inevitable, and it feels like it's coming. The big question is, will it be the major plotline for the Elder Scrolls 6? Could it serve as a subplot? I just don't feel like that Bethesda Game Studios could do that again. It feels like in Skyrim that Civil War just felt like it lacked in a lot of ways. Maybe that was their engine limitations, and hopefully this time it changes. You know, I want a game that's a little bit more free. It felt like Fallout 4 and Skyrim hit their limitations, and this time around I want it to be different. You know, if we're going to be waiting years for the Elder Scrolls 6, I want it to be worth it, and I feel like Bethesda Game Studios could deliver us something that we will never ever forget, and I feel like it also could be something very different than what we've gotten in the past. In terms of the Aldmeri Dominion and their role in the next Elder Scrolls game, it definitely is sounding like we're going to be getting them as possibly the main antagonists. I just hope that we have the choice of playing as them, maybe being our side. You know, maybe we have the choice of joining the Aldmeri Dominion. I know that Bethesda Game Studios strives on making non-linear experiences, so I really hope that we get that choice to be evil in some senses, because at least that's what the Aldmeri Dominion come off of as. And the one last big fact I want to mention to you guys is possibly could our character be a Shezarine, who is an influential and sometimes godlike figure who's believed to be a mortal incarnation of the missing god Lorkhan, or one of his aspects. They are considered to be the greatest champions of humankind, often appearing to defend their people against elven aggressors. And if the next game is based on the Aldmeri Dominion versus the Imperials plotline, that would make a lot of sense. But anyway guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure you smack that like button if you did enjoy the video, and make sure you dive into the comment section below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. Do you think Valenwood and elsewhere make the most sense for the location of the next Elder Scrolls 6 game? And also make sure you let me know what you think about this plotline. Do you think it makes the most sense? And I want to thank you so much for watching. So many more videos to come within the Elder Scrolls 6, and I'll see you guys later.